Who is Thomas Fortune? Have you ever heard of him? I didn't until I started doing this Changemaker series. And I wanted to highlight people that I didn't know, but also kind of connect dots as we drop these breadcrumbs. Born October 3rd, 1856. 1856. I just want you to sit on that. He was born into slavery, Mariana, Jackson County, Florida. His mother, Sarah Jane Fortune, his dad's name was Emmanuel. They started his education at first school for African Americans after the Civil War. So they kind of skip over that part of bondage. I think he spent almost 10 years in bondage, right? But afterwards, they wanted to do what? Get an education, much the way Lori and Jonathan's parents and all of you who are listening, you pushing your children towards education. Why? Because that's part of the freedom. Financial, literacy, you can't have one without the other. If you're not reading and studying and understanding and going down these rabbit holes at the same time that you're taking care of your money, 1, 2. Okay, so he went to school, he went to a prep school, and then he worked as a page in the state Senate in Jacksonville, Florida, which again, you think about the deep South of slavery, the deep South. And during Reconstruction, there was a politician, actually his dad became a politician during Reconstruction, Emmanuel. And these experiences would be the start of a career in which his work was published in more than 20 books, articles in more than 300. He wrote more than 300 editorials. In 1874, he was on a mail route agent. Then he was promoted to a customs inspector for the Eastern District of Delaware, but only held that position for a few months before resigning. We don't know why. Oh, he went to Howard University. So it was there that his journey really began. He moved to New York City after Howard and began a process by where over the next 2 decades, he would become known as an editor and owner of a newspaper named first The Globe and then The Freeman, and finally New York Age. And it was the most widely read newspaper in the entire country, the New York Age. He was also into the economics. He was an advisor to Booker T. Washington. He was also the editor of Booker T. Washington's first autobiography, The Story of My Life and Work. This is Thomas Fortune. And his philosophy of militant agitation on behalf of the rights of Black people was one of the foundations of the civil rights movement. He was born in 1856. The civil rights movement didn't happen for another 100 years, but it was the tenets of that. Again, what you do today is not going to manifest tomorrow, but we got to plant these seeds and we got to be vigilant. In Chicago, 1890, he co-founded a militant National African American League to right the wrongs that were happening against Black people in this country, and by authorized law and sanctioned, like what we saw in Tulsa, Oklahoma, sanctioned by the government. He wanted to combat it. And again, their organizations, I think about the ADL and the JDL, and I'm like, we got the NAACP and the Urban League. Anyway, all right, let me move on. Anyway, it was the new name that he for this organization, the National Afro-American Council, that was Fortune was its first president and prominent member, which again, a militant organization to combat racism in America at the hands of power, right? And so there he won awards. He actually lent his hand to helping W.B. Du Bois, who went on to form the NAACP, as well as Ida B. Wells. As a matter of fact, it was Fortune after Ida B. Wells. Again, we're going to feel like all breadcrumbs lead to her some kind of way. After they blew up her business, her printing press, where she was going out reporting on lynchings, he lent his newspaper to telling the stories of people who are lynched. As a matter of fact, more of her writings appeared in the New York Age than any place else. And with Fortune at the helm, it became the most widely read newspaper in Black America. So I say this, thank you, Mr. Fortune, because I stand on your shoulders as well as Ida B. Wells. But, we are not without power. I think about a man born into bondage in 1856. He didn't just sit there and like, oh, woe is me. He got up and did something, and things had to be way worse than they are now. So as much as, many of us were triggered by the audio that I played earlier, and as much as many of us were angry, and I'm still angry about what happened to Elijah McClain and what happened to that 18-year-old young man in Texas, we didn't go through what folks like Timothy Fortune or Ida B. Wells went through, and yet they didn't quit. So, and I think about media as I sit here on these airwaves every day. And my commitment is to making sure that we have people who come in to tell us blueprints and talk about, the things we need to know. But it's also to inspire you to not give up. So 866-801-8255. That was Timothy Thomas Fortune, our history change maker for the day.